We'll go ahead and get started. What we do have a doctor that's with us who was out of town last week, Dr. Bill Lynch. Okay. Would you like to go ahead and take the podium for us? Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chairperson. Appreciate you having me today. I actually am out of town. I'm actually an advanced clinical pharmacist from Jefferson Health System in the Philadelphia area, where I serve as adjunct faculty at the Rowan School of Osteopathic Medicine, our Department of Emergency Medicine, and also precept for Rutgers College of Pharmacy, St. Joseph's College of Pharmacy, and also Thomas Jefferson. So we have recreational marijuana and medical marijuana already approved in New Jersey, and I can tell you what we're seeing there. So marijuana and THC is associated with psychosis and schizophrenia, definitively, proven by Bradford Hill criteria. Bradford Hill criteria was used to show that tobacco actually causes lung cancer, so it meets those criteria. It's also associated with depression and suicidal ideation. We see plenty of this all the time coming into our hospital. The question is not how many cases, not if we'll have cases when I go to work, it's a matter of how many. Marijuana cannabis increases significantly violent behavior. Our doctors are surprised by people only testing positive for THC in their urine and not other substances. It's all driven by the high potency that's out there. The percentage of those who use drugs will become addicted to other substances. They do move on. There's no doubt that people who use marijuana move on to other substances. Not everyone who is a person who uses marijuana becomes a heroin or fentanyl addict, but 92% of them who do will tell you that marijuana is in their previous drug history, which is a concern. Marijuana THC poisonings are an alarming rate. You'll see this especially with toddlers. They get hold of the edibles, the gummy bears, those kind of things. But they can be significant, up to including hospitalization, intensive care unit intubation, where they're put on an intubation for breathing, and also they can potentially die from that, and that has occurred. It's documented in the literature. There's also cannabis hyperemesis syndrome. It's called scromiting. There are published reported cases of fatalities from that. You get such electrolyte imbalance for your heart that you actually have all kinds of problems with regards to cannabis hyperemesis syndrome as well, which can also be pretty significant. Significant drug interactions. That's our world as a practicing clinical pharmacist. We've had students from all three colleges look at this. We've actually put this together as a significant presentation. There are 96 classes of drugs interacting with THC and 61 classes of drugs with CBD. That's over 600 different types of drug interactions. There's significant negative effects on cardiovascular health. Marijuana is not kind to the heart. And the reason I bring that up is because to tell you those stories. So we had a gentleman who came in, 23 years of age. He runs up the stairs, gets short of breath. He's driving out on this car. He starts having chest pain. He comes to our hospital. Fortunately, as an EKG done, our ED doc notices that on V2, V3, which is one vector of a 16-lead EKG, he has a slight T-wave inversion. He has Welland syndrome. He uses marijuana twice a week. That's it. Problem is, Welland syndrome is actually your coronary artery at the very top getting stenotic, which is hardening. And now, when he actually uses marijuana, he gets a coronary vasospasm. It occludes. He's 80% occluded, has to be rushed for a cardiac stent at 23 years of age. We have a 22-year-old who actually is at home smoking marijuana, has an asthma attack. What's he do? He hit his albuterol inhaler. Problem is, albuterol raises your heart rate, so does cannabis. Now he has significant tachycardia and comes to the hospital. Now, because it's so bad, he hits his albuterol inhaler even more. He goes into full-blown atrial fibrillation and has to go to intensive care unit for 4 days. Our cardiology practice at Jefferson will tell you that recreational marijuana has been the best thing that's ever happened to them. They're flooded with the number of cardiology patients because of the fact that literally having to be hospitalized in their teens, 20s, and 30s from having this. Gentleman writhing in pain from vaping marijuana, excruciating chest pain, comes in hospital, still has a chest pain. EKG now is normal though. So the question is, what's going on with him? We draw troponin, that's an enzyme you'll spill in your blood having a heart attack, should be less than 18. His first one's 936. He spikes at 14,000. Major heart attack at 30 years of age because of the coronary artery vasospasm that marijuana is notorious for. Then it redilates, but the damage is already done. I mean, significant cases with regards to this. Also, marijuana is linked to contamination. There's actually aspergillus, when everyone says it's going to be controlled. Fungal infections, these things are controlled. Marijuana is also a major scavenger in the soil of heavy metals. So people will test positive for higher levels of cadmium and lead in their blood and in their urine from the poisoning from the plant, just because the plant sucks it up out of the soil. Negative cardiovascular health, 2 times risk of lung cancer is notorious. Marijuana for testicular cancer, 3 major trials showing that if individuals use marijuana at 18 years of age or younger once a week, they triple their risk for testicular cancer. significant with regards to what can happen to young men. Cannabis also increases, and this has been shown with cancer registries, those states that have recreationally, medically or recreationally available, where it is more readily available, have higher rates of pediatric cancers and higher rates of increase in those states where it is more readily available. Documented, published data. Also, cannabis is the leading cause for a major childhood cancer called acute lymphoid leukemia. That accounts for 20% of all pediatric cancers. And marijuana has been linked to causing ALL. Opiate and opiate-related deaths go up. People refer to the Buck-Hoover paper. If you have medical marijuana, your opiate deaths go down. That was the first publication. Look at the Shover paper after that that shows you when it's available that actually those death rates go up. So the 23% decrease was a 21% increase in opiate deaths, and that was actually a 44% shift in the negative direction, which is huge. Also shown that with another published paper by Dr. Fink out of Colorado and his colleagues, that opiate deaths go up and fentanyl deaths go up, where marijuana is available compared to those states where it is not. Marijuana leads to engaging in other substance abuse. It's also among high school students. If I want to know who is going to progress onto other substances, marijuana is the leading of 2 of the 3 factors. 1, lifetime use ever, and also use within the last 30 days. Shows that those individuals progress on. What most people are surprised about from the DAWN data, which is a drug awareness warning network for emergency departments, again, being part of the Department of Emergency Medicine, is that we actually see this in that alcohol is first at the top 10 drugs driving people to emergency rooms. Methamphetamine, this is across the country, is second. Marijuana is third, ahead of fentanyl, heroin, cocaine, methadone, Xanax, you name it. Marijuana is third in causing that. The other thing is cannabis is related to induce psychological behavior with regards to chromosomal changes. So when men or women use this, fathers or mothers, in the future, fathers with a DLCAP2 gene change cause autism in their children, linked to marijuana use. Chromosomal genetic diseases also include Down syndrome, Klinefelters, Hunters, Turners. Marijuana is linked to pediatric cancers, which we talked about, and also all kinds of cognitive issues, addiction, dependence, and withdrawal, psychosis, schizophrenia is most disturbing. If an individual comes to the hospital with a psychotic event, because of that's marijuana-induced, cannabis-induced psychosis called, acutely, their chances of transitioning to schizophrenia within 3 years based on their age or gender is 20 to 40% to transition to schizophrenia within 3 years. A major, major publication and finding. It is linked to suicide. 51% of those who die from suicide in Colorado who were 10 to 19 years of age test positive as a decedent in their system that have marijuana on board. 51%, even more so than alcohol. It's sobering for violence. Who was Dylan Roof, your Charleston Bible study shooter, marijuana, the Zarnev brothers, marijuana user, who was the first person that the person shot at Uvalde, Texas, his grandmother, because she wouldn't let him use marijuana. I mean, significant violence was because of this. The reason I bring all that up is because of the fact that, well, do we really see this? And we do. We do. And what happens is that we'll hear all the time is, whether someone wants to use marijuana, that's of their own accord. It's not going to affect me. I don't want to use it. I'm never going to use it. But if somebody else wants to, that's okay. Well, the question is, what about the untoward consequences? So we're going to tell you about Mr. Nice. Mr. Nice was one of our patients who came in one
Dr.
night.
Lynch.
It's just one more story.
Okay.
It's one more story.
All right, thank you.
And it's really to sum it up. So what
Thank
ended up happening was, he came in because he was chopping wood and having chest pain. He comes to the hospital. Meanwhile, someone came in with a cannabis-induced psychosis. She was lucky if she weighed 110 pounds soaking wet, but because of her violent behavior, she kicked one of our nurses in the face, broke his cheekbone, kicked another nurse in the ribs, broke her ribs, kicked another technician, knocked her down, and has stitches. So now we're down 3 patients to take care of people, and Mr. Nice is waiting in the waiting room with his chest pain from chopping wood. Except when we finally get him back into there, his troponins through the roof, and he's having a major evolving heart attack, and we've been delayed in taking care of him because of the person who came with cannabis-induced psychosis and who then injured 3 of our employees because of her behavior. That's unfortunately what happens every night I go to work in the state of New Jersey with cannabis. So thank you very much for the opportunity to share this information with all of you today, and we appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And thank you for coming all the way from New Jersey to visit with us in South Carolina. Next up, we have. Yes, sir. Do you have a question? I'm sorry.
Yeah, I had a question.
Okay, go ahead.
I did too.
Who's that? You
Thank you, Dr. Lynch.
Sure.
My question, you said you were from New Jersey and that y'all have recreational and medical marijuana is legal. Does the hospital you work at prescribe medical marijuana?
That's a great question. So, being a practicing clinical pharmacist, marijuana cannot be prescribed. Now, you can have a physician request that someone gets it, and they go to a dispensary, and they get their marijuana with a medical card, but it is truly not prescribed in that I do not get a prescription, and I do not fill a medical marijuana prescription. It's filled by a dispensary. In addition to that, our hospital, Jefferson Health System, and along with Cleveland Clinic, do not allow marijuana, if someone has it, to be used in our hospital at all, no matter what formulation they have, whatever. We have other medication that we can use to treat whatever their ailment is. I know you're considering a medical bill here in particular for that. We serve in the Pain Management Addiction Committee at Jefferson. We have plenty of other modalities that we can use to treat those things. But with regards to the actual question of it being prescribed, it is not truly written on a prescription and given to me to fill. What's interesting about that is that it is being considered by the federal government to change the scheduling from a Schedule 1 to a Schedule 3. If that happens, if they would follow the federal registry, the only professionals who could dispense a controlled release substance are pharmacists. Not physicians, not nurses. They could in the hospital, but it would have to be dispensed from us to them to give out. That's where that would lead to. And it'd be interesting to see how they plan on following that with regards to the shortage of pharmacists to begin with. But as far as it being prescribed, it's not really a prescribed product. It's truly written for a medical card that they have to qualify for, and then a dispensary gives it out. It's not given out by a pharmacy. Pharmacy, and we do give out Epidiolex, CBD, for pediatric seizures. That is prescribed. And we also give out dronabinol, which is Marinol, which is actually synthetic THC that we do give out for nausea, vomiting, chemotherapy, cachexia, and that kind of stuff. Those two formulations of a marijuana product are prescribed, and I do dispense them, and I have given them out in my career, but the rest of it, that's not prescribed or dispensed by me.
Representative, sorry, did you have follow-up?
No, that's it. Thank you.
Representative Jones, did you have a question?
Yes, ma'am. Dr. Lynch, you gave us several examples of things that have happened where you are. But in those examples, were the majority of those persons who were using it recreationally?
Most of the time, yes, because what's interesting in our hospital is when I work weekends especially, we'll get asked the question, why do we see all these people from Pennsylvania, and especially the Philadelphia area? So Ben Salem, Philadelphia, Delaware County, that kind of stuff. And we get asked that question. So you really asking me that question? We see them because Pennsylvania does not have recreational marijuana approved. They come over, they buy it in New Jersey, they use it, they can't tolerate it, and now they're in our emergency room. And that's what we see mostly is because of that. That does not mean you can't have some of these cardiovascular events and mind-altering events happen from medically prescribed, but most of the time it's recreational use, the potency is not controlled, people don't know what's in there, and the thing is, but like, we do confirm with a lot of these reactions through the urine drug screen, and we test for multiple substances, that the only thing they're testing positive for is THC, and that's how we do know that that seems to be the culprit in a lot of these situations that occur.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Lynch. We
Sure.
appreciate you being here today.
Thank you very much. Take care.
Thank you. Next up. Mr. Sessions, go ahead, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Did you mention that you can prescribe synthetic THC?
There's actually a formulation called Marinol that's actually THC. It's approved by the federal government. It went through the clinical trials. And one of the things I actually failed to mention is that if you actually come and all of you where you were and you're looking at me through the window of the pharmacy, behind me you would see thousands, and I mean thousands of medications. And the question is they all have two things in common. Two well-controlled pivotal trials that show that those substances that I'm prescribing or using work for the indication they're for the medical condition, and some semblance of a safety profile. With regards to marijuana, that has happened. CBD, Epidiolex, is approved for certain types of seizures, Dravet and Lennox-Gastaut pediatric seizures, and also dronabinol has been approved for nausea and vomiting that's severe enough from chemotherapy that patients can't tolerate other antiemetics, medication we use for them not to throw up or have severe nausea. And also can be used for cachexia if people have failure to thrive, they're not eating those kind of things that stimulates appetite. So everyone knows about that, that's what THC does. So we use it. Those two products do exist and are approved prescriptions that I do give out and dispense at the hospital. But they're the only two that are quote unquote an isolated form for marijuana that we use.
And just a brief follow-up, those are both synthetic?
Well, Epidiolex is actually is made from the plant. So
Okay.
it's actually CBD isolated from it, and then THC is actually synthetically derived, where you can, you can take the product and you can make THC. I mean, you can make lots of things nowadays synthetically. But that's what we actually have, and it's derived from that formulation. But that's the issue you have now with the hemp bill, in that a lot of other psychoactive derived cannabinoid products are not synthetic. They're actually derived from the plant. Cannabigerol, hexahydrocannabinol, delta-8, all of those, they're all truly from the plant, and now they can be isolated out. But we don't use them medically currently.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, you're welcome.